Hello, everyone. This is Mrs. Faulkner, and today we are discussing figurative language. I'm trying Screencastify for the first time, and I also have a brand new microphone. So if there are any problems, we'll work through it as we come along. But if you hear any noises in the background, just ignore them. It's probably just my dog barking. In front of you, you should have some notes with some blanks that you need to fill in. Go ahead and fill those in as we are going through the PowerPoint. You'll also see a spot where you need to write an example for each figurative language term we discuss. If you think of a good example, and remember it has to be your own, not one from the PowerPoint, if you think of a good example, go ahead and write it down. If you can't, go ahead and skip it, keep up with the notes, we'll come back to it by the end of the period. But I do expect you to be able to identify each and every one of these figurative language terms and to be able to create your own by the end of this unit. Some of this may be review, some of it may be new, but let's get started. First, we need to discuss what's the difference between literal and figurative language. Literal language is just what the words actually mean. So, when you say something literally, you're saying it actually happened. So, the car is blue. Literally, the car is a blue color. That's an easy one. If you say, I laughed so hard, I literally wet my pants a little, you're actually saying and confessing to the fact that you wet your pants a little bit while you were laughing. So if you say something literally, it means in actuality or the actual way the words are defined. Figurative language, on the other hand, is when you play with the meaning of the words a little bit. The words or phrases have different meaning than their definition. So I feel blue, for example. Instead of the car is blue, I could say I am blue. That means that I feel sad. It's an idiom. I could also say I almost died laughing. Notice I didn't say I literally almost died laughing. That would be wrong. I'd hope that laughter would not cause me to almost die. I almost died laughing is an exaggeration, so that makes it a hyperbole. We'll discuss those terms in turn coming up. But these are examples of figurative language. It's when you play with the words and stray away from their definitions. Our first term is simile, and it's probably one you recognize. It's a comparison of two unlike things, and it uses words such as like, as, or than. Than is not very common, but it is part of the simile family, so be aware. I know the common definition is simile uses the words like or as, but it can include than, so just keep that in mind. Some examples: that chili is so hot, it's like fire. I'm happier than a dog with a new bone. She is as lovely as a rose. So you're comparing the girl to the loveliness of the rose. Again, you should know simile by now, but if you don't, this will be a good example. I have some videos that I want to bring up real quick, and we'll check out some examples in movies or videos.
Hey, you like impressions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just like in rehearsals, gentlemen. So what are we? Take a guess.
Oh, I've seen one of those.
I'm a fish with a nose like a sword.
Wait,
It's a swordfish.
Oh, hey, clown boy, let the lady guess.
There's also another example here that I like. Let's check it out. This is from one of my favorite movies.
For your information, there's a lot more to
Ogres than people think.
Example?
Example? Okay, ogres are like onions.
They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hairs.
No. Layers. Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it. We both have layers.
Oh, you both have layers. Oh.
So I have a nose like a sword, so that's a swordfish, or ogres having layers like an onion. Both are comparisons using like, so that makes them both similes. So let's go back to our PowerPoint, and we'll move on to metaphor, which is very similar to simile. It's also a comparison of two things, but it does not use like, as, or than. It is a direct comparison. Sometimes it'll use to be verbs such as is or was, but sometimes it's just a direct comparison and it doesn't use like or as. So, an example could be his stomach must be a bottomless well. Notice that doesn't have like or as in it. We had one from the sniper that we read earlier this year. His bullets would never pierce the steel that covered the gray monster. He was discussing the armored tank that had just come into view, and he was comparing the tank to a gray monster. So we have Cookie Monster's stomach being a bottomless well, something with no limit, and then we have the tank, the enemy tank, being a monster, which is a pretty good comparison. Both are very scary. So the difference between simile and metaphor is simple. Simile uses like, as, or than. Metaphor is a direct comparison. If we're still on Cookie Monster, his stomach is like a bottomless well, is a simile, or his stomach is a bottomless well, is a metaphor. They're both very similar, but I'm pretty sure you guys should have this down by now. You should have been learning all of this years ago. So those two should be really simple in review for you. The next one I have is personification. And that's when you give human-like qualities to objects or ideas. The sunlight kissed my face as I walked out of detention. So even in this picture, we have an example of personification. We are giving a face to the sun. The sun does not have actual face, nor does it have lips to use to kiss your sun. We're playing with the idea that the sun or the sunlight could reach out and touch you. It can't really, but it's giving them a human-like quality. Only humans would be able to reach out and kiss you or touch you. My fear of public speaking holds me back from my dream of becoming a teacher. So my fear is actually holding me back. It's like it's grabbed onto me and it won't let me go any further. So the fact that an idea is holding on to me, that is an example of personification. I may have an example of this in my video. I need to double check very quick. Yes, I do. I thought I did. All right. Yes, I remember this example is from The Simpsons, and Marge, Homer's wife, had just gotten into a bad gambling habit, and Homer talks about gambling itself in a
No,
personification.
Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gamblor, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon clod.
So, the gambling addiction had held on to Marge, and he was going to take it from gambling's claws. Also giving it a nickname of Gamblor. That's just cute. Not exactly a personification to say, but the idea of gambling being something that could hold on to Marge, to hold her back, to keep her ensnared in its claws, definitely personification. The next term is hyperbole. This one's very easy. It's an exaggeration for effect. So that class lasted forever. It's when you exaggerate, okay? The class didn't really last forever. The class was only 45 minutes, but it just felt like forever. I ate so much my stomach is going to burst. That I don't think that has ever medically and historically happened. So you're probably not going to lose your stomach or your life to eating too much. Then again, it might. But if I'm using it as an exaggeration, it's a hyperbole. That road trip lasted forever. He's so tall that he can touch the ceiling of the gymnasium. And again, I ate so much, my stomach is going to burst. Or maybe I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. They're all examples of exaggerations. Very, very easy. An exaggeration for effect.